All right. Well, welcome back to another Re-Education Experience podcast. With me, your host, your familiar host, Darren Langille. But today I get to bring on another amazing guest to have a fireside chat with. And as always, I never prepare our guests for the conversation. I just let them trust me in it. So today's guest, she's a firecracker. She's a super rock star producer, team leader. She's a speaker. That's where we last connected. She's just a wicked human, mother, spouse, and a friend. So a pleasure to call you friend. Alana and her husband run the Lana Rodriguez Group in Colorado Springs with us, where I'm at Real Broker. So she's like family to me. So welcome to the show, Alana. How are you?
I'm here. I made it. I'm doing great, Darren. Thank you so much for having me. And hello, everyone. Happy to be here.
You look fantastic. You're way more polished than I am. You know, for those that are watching on YouTube, I'm always rocking a t-shirt, usually black. Today it's white. She is looking like the rock star she always is. So, and I think I need to step up my game, Lana.
You're too kind, my friend. This is a trick. I'm currently sitting in our Colorado Springs office, and I do have a closet in there, and I have a, set of blazers, set of change of clothes in case shit hits the fan and I need to be prepared. So,
Fair enough. Amazing. Okay, so I'll give you a little intro, right? You know, some people watching this know you, a lot of people don't. What did I miss a little bit about Lana Rodriguez? I did it in one sentence, but like, what did I miss that I think we should kind of give the audience a bit of context around who you are as a person, and they can take in this interview?
right on. I think you were pretty much on point about everything. I'm an immigrant, so if you cannot understand what I say, I'm gonna try to speak slower. But I'm originally from the country of Latvia, part of Russia, a long time ago. And yes, even though I do speak Russian, I identify myself as a Latvian for political reasons.
Mm.
And I have been living in America since 2005, and America has been really good to me. I'm very grateful. I consider myself as an American, and I was able to bring my parents here, give them American dream, birth two children with my husband Brian, who was active duty officer when we met. And we ended up in Colorado in 2014. So living and selling real estate here for almost 10 years. And I don't want to say I got lucky with Colorado and all the military, duty stations that we have, but we have five. And when I
Mm.
got my real estate license, it was a story between Brian and I. I always make a joke, but it was actually a true story. He gave me an ultimatum because I really wanted to focus on starting the family. He didn't. He's like, "We're too young. We don't need worry about this." But my goal was to have my first child before I was 30. And he's like, "Well, why don't you go back to work if that's what you want to do?" Because we needed, in his opinion, in his mind, we needed to have a dual income family to start a family, which is weird. I mean, don't get me started. And
Mm.
that's how I got my real estate license. And what I did not know that later on I was going to be able to create this niche of serving military families and actually building community of my own. So I got a little bit lucky, but as they say, Darren, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So I guess that's what happened to me.
So Colorado Springs, how many people live there? Just out of
Right
context.
now, when we arrived 10 years ago, it was like 400,000, and now maybe like 600,000. So not a
Okay.
lot.
And then you said there's five active bases there. Is that right?
Yeah, we have a big army base for Carson. We have a couple Air Force bases. We have Secret Shine Mountain Base in a mountain, and then Air Force Academy. So
Oh, well.
the transit between the active duty members and retirees, it's happening. And of
Mm.
course, VA loan. Do you guys have VA loans in Canada?
Our veterans program in Canada is lackluster at best. So I don't know the layers. It is so low on the totem pole from our political spectrum that we don't even know. Like us average non-veterans don't have any clue what kind of support is there or not. It's that bad. So
Wow. Okay. Noted. Well, in the United States, it's a little bit different. If you served at least 4 years in an active duty military, you are granted this amazing loan that does not require down payment and typically has one of the best interest rates, through the current market. And
wow.
we bought ourselves almost 3, 4 times using the loan. So I was very, very knowledgeable with the program. And, when I was getting into the real estate, I'll be completely honest, my limiting belief was that I was not going to make it. I joined Remax, and Remax is everywhere. I'm sure you guys have Remax in Canada too. And
Yep.
back then, 10 years ago, Remax was the hopping brand. We even have a corporate office about 1 hour away. And I was sitting at our first sales meeting and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm never going to make it because I'm surrounded by these top producers who are like Coloradans. They've been living here for years. They speak
Right.
perfect English. They have database and Sphere and all this, and they make multiple thousands of dollars a month. And I was texting my husband, literally, I was like, you set me up for failure. I'm miserable here. But this is what happened. I was like, okay. So part of Remax, because when you run with the big dogs, you either get stumbled on or you keep up. You keep up with the big dogs. And my first year was year of lots of trial and error. And I'm sure, you're first in
And
real
that's
estate.
2014, right? So a full decade ago now, right?
15.
Oh, 15.
2014,
Okay.
I got licensed end of that year. And then 15 was the first year of trial and error. And that year particularly, I sold 31 properties, also delivered my daughter. God blessed me with a pregnancy after much prayer. So it was interesting because I was like, either I'm going to sink or swim. And I did not know a lot of things, but I tried to plug myself in every class, every room, every networking opportunity, because the way I was looking at it, I have only 9 months till I deliver that baby. And
Yep.
I was actually hoping to go on a little maternity leave, Little did I knew that I had only 2 weeks maternity leave and then I had to go back to work. That's a different story too. But I feel like if we give ourselves, the goal or the time frame and we try to achieve something, one can be very, very successful if they strategically work hard enough at it. And that's what happened to me. And that's why I was not able to have a decent maternity leave. Number one, I did not have a support system as far as like a team member or somebody who can actually handle my business while I'm at home with a baby.
Yeah.
And business was coming. Business was coming. I was not paying for leads. I also, very early on, I got into Brian Buffini systems, working by referral. I was like, I don't know who this guy, but whatever he preaches kind of sounds good to me. And he was a big guy on working, like doing calls, notes, and pop buys. But I'll tell
Yeah.
you something, up to this date, I hate talking on the phone. Only because I feel like I lose myself. I cannot express myself properly because my accent comes out. And when the
So
accent comes
where in that first year you said you dropped the bomb that it was 31 deals in your first year. So holy cow, a lot of people listening are like, oh my gosh, I've never done 31-year deals yet. I don't know how I can get to 31 deals. How early on did you jump into like systems and like support like a Brian Buffini? Or how did you get to the 31 in a newer market? A little context there to kind of how did you get such high volume so fast?
I love that you mentioned word systems. What is that again? Just kidding. I think 10 years later now, we have some systems, but still a work in progress. Very quickly, what I have done is to realize what am I going to do in the business and what am I not going to do. I have tried cold calling because that's what we're told. I tried door knocking and I hated it, to be honest. I hated it. And our Remax office was starting that one of the Brian Buffini classes, peak producers or something like that. And I just signed up. I signed up. As a matter of fact, it was my first trimester while I was also pregnant and I was extremely sick. I would sit in the back. I would be, partially zoned out, but I went through this program and I just started implementing little things because, we all go to amazing classes, masterminds, especially at Real Broker. We're so blessed, but we
Yeah.
cannot take on all. Like just take one or two things and do them right. And that's what I did. And another thing is I'm a people's person. Am I the smartest cookie in a jar or most consistent? I'm trying to be, but I'm not. But most of the time, somebody meets me face to face. I'm very genuine, I'm very pleasant. I like to think I'm pleasant. And I
Most
build,
people think you're pleasant, right? Yeah. Yeah.
uh, but I have this tendency to build rapport really, really well. And it actually comes from my previous career, which was retail. I was a retail manager for many amazing store brands. One of them is Michael Kors, Kenneth Cole, Ed Hardy, Puma. And what I brought from retail into real estate space is a concept of clienteling. Okay. Now backtrack 10 years. A lot of us real estate professionals, we have like a client care manager, or we, do the weekly, monthly, or quarterly client appreciation events. But back 10 years ago, no one was doing that. There was
Right.
Buffini preaching, calls, notes, and pub buys. They were sprinkling client events a little bit. But I was like, well, what if anyone I meet, if it's like an individual person, a future prospect, what if I treat them like a maybe special? What if they will be a VIP? in my book. And that's what I started doing. And up to this point, Facebook was one of the big connection points for me. Yes, we have CRM, we'll use Lofty because that's awesome, and we have to have our stuff organized. But a lot of my relationships are now still continuing through Facebook because I know my client avatar, I know my agent avatar, and my people, yeah, there's some of them are on Instagram right now because Instagram is hopping, but Facebook gave me a lot of business. And I just started doing these little things that were pleasant to me, that they were, getting consumers' attention. And even like, I'll tell you how I got my first lead. My ever first opportunity was from DMV. Brian and I would just move to Colorado. We went to DMV to exchange our licenses or whatever. And there was a lady across. And at Remax, they told us, hey, give your business card to anyone you meet, Vistaprint, $50 for 500 business cards.
Right.
And I'm feeling so silly, but I gave my business card to this lady. I was like, hey, I'm a brand new real estate agent. You got to introduce yourself. And she's like, oh, thank you. And I actually used to do it quite a lot. And 2 weeks later, somebody called me. And it was an elderly couple who wanted to buy a house. And I could not put two and two together who referred them. And after the due diligence, I found out that her best friend referred me. And I was like, so this is how it works, So when you take Brian Buffini working by referral systems and a little bit of that clienteling experience, I molded this into something special. And yes, you can call it a system. Right now, it's a system between us and our team. But it was lots of trial and error, lots of things that I tried. Even my first client appreciation event was probably a joke, but now we pack, fields of 800, 600 people coming annually.
How long have you been doing, so have you created, I just got off of a coaching call and I was saying when you do a client event, right, you tend to press rinse and repeat and you just repeat it. And then eventually these people they look forward to your event because like you've dialed it in over, say, the decade. Have you had some events that you're currently doing that you started a decade ago? Or have you abandoned everything you first started and now everything's new and working? What are your favorite client events where people love?
Yeah, Darren, thank you for asking. Client events I love it. I personally love it. If I can just do that and not sell a real estate, just kidding. We got to sell real estate to pay the bills. One of my favorite real estate client events that we have conducted up to this date is our pumpkin patch. It's actually coming up. It's September 22nd. And me and my office manager, just an hour ago, we were tweaking some details. And it's our 7th annual. And I'm like, did I really host this particular event for like 7 years ago? And I remember our first one, we always try to support local with these events and either, provide local vendors or support local business because we bring in a lot of people and they get exposure and they get business opportunities. And the first one was this old mom and pop pumpkin patch here, not too far. And then they banned us. They didn't let us come in on the second day because they were so exhausted. I told her we're going to bring in 300-400 people back then. And they're like, okay, we're ready. And they were not ready. It was just them and their grandkids serving everybody. And they just got overexhausted. So now we have a contract that we renew almost annually. The minute the first pumpkin patch ends, we already start booking the date for the next one year ahead. And it's one of the biggest pumpkin patches here locally. We have agreement that we go in there with our crew at one of the opening weekends when they don't advertise to the public. Yeah, there are going to be a little bit of access to the public, but it's mostly our clients. And typically anywhere from 600 to 800 people, including parents, grandparents. I was like, please bring in your neighbors. Because I know my cost per person at this event is about $10. And they get a pumpkin, they get a lunch. So I can easily calculate how much it's going to cost me to have extra bodies. And, just like in Canada, I'm sure you guys go through like 4 seasons. We go through 4 seasons in Colorado. And something happens with people like, we don't care about summer anymore. Ditch the bathing suits. Let's put our flannels on. And people literally come and celebrate this. So that's our biggest event. That's the one that carried through like 7 years.
And that experience, how long are people there for? It's a couple-hour event? You do an all day? How do you do that?
Yeah, 10 to 3 because, we do it on Sundays. We do it on Sundays because on Saturdays, most of us are working with clients. We're showing homes. On Sundays, I feel like it's a day for rest and also to celebrate and have fun. And the reason why we do it from 10 to 3 is because there's always going to be some clients of yours who are going to go to church and you still want to have enough time. If they want to come at 12 or 1 or 2 o'clock, you still want to have enough time for them to enjoy the event as well.
Amazing. So 10 to 3, these guys get a pumpkin takeaway, they get some networking with you. You do you bring in sponsors, do you bring in other vendors? Or is it just all your team and everybody like, to help with that to give them exposure, or do you keep it just your crew?
Yeah, so believe it or not, Darren, for longest time, I was not asking for anyone to sponsor. I was paying everything out of my pocket to the point where I think in 2019, it was $100,000 spent on just marketing client events and client touches and whatnot. But then I went
Yeah.
to one of the masterminds and I have learned that so many agents are partnering up with their lenders, the title people. And I started trying. So right now for the biggest events, like for example, a real estate conference or this big pumpkin patch, because we will probably be writing a $9,000 bill, we're partnering up with our lender. Now, we're not asking for opportunities all the time because I don't want to take advantage of this. And it also gets approved through his marketing department. And if they grant, up to 50% per event, and we need to have the full report with them, like a due diligence packet, who with 5 W's, who, what, where, when, and how they're going to benefit, our relationship. But yes. So typically our lending partners participating, but smaller events, I still cover it myself. And
Right.
I don't like to go and asking people for help, but the bigger ones, definitely.
I've been that way too, to be honest. I've held most of our events on our own, and then I don't know. It's a limiting belief, I think, too, to say that this isn't such a great opportunity. But of course, it takes more logistics and more things to work around. And then we have friends that they're actually making money at the end of one of these, rather than any kind of cost because they pull the vendors in so much. But okay, so you did the big pumpkin patch. That's coming up pretty here. Of course, you have an admit. Tell me a little bit about your team because we should give some people context to, okay, you started with 31 deals year one. How did year two go? And give me a little bit of the trajectory, and then we'll land on like what kind of team you have right now, and I'll dig into some more questions.
All right. I love your questions. You're such a great host, Darren. So the backstory, the year one was 31 transactions, maybe even 32, but in the 30s. The year two was a record-breaking year, not only for myself personally, but also I think for our MLS. As a
Mm.
solo producer, I have done 119 transactions.
Whoa.
119, yes. For two reasons. Only because like when people look at the lead gen or whatever they're doing, they expect immediate results. Even today, I was on a Zoom call with one of the marketing professionals who was talking about Facebook ads. And when people start doing Facebook ads, they expect, yeah, where are my leads? Where is the recognition? No, where the Facebook ads you do today are gonna prosper you, and then by the next spring, that's how you have to see it. So the client appreciation touches and things like that, and growing your community, it's never 90-day plan. It's a 120-day plan, 360-day plan. And for me, my little hard work paid off. So I had a baby, wanted to be a mom, stay-at-home mom for at least few months. No, I couldn't do it. Went back to work and 119 transactions. It was a hard year. Let me tell you why. I think that year I made the most money I could ever imagined. I didn't see that money. Didn't get to enjoy it. I don't know where it went. Clearly, we paid off a lot of debt, Brian and I. And interesting fact, when I started real estate, Brian and I, we shared one car. It was a little bitty Kia Soul. We wrapped it around with like some marketing things. And we actually still have this car. One of my clients borrowed it and he's driving it. But we had a very, very humble beginnings because we were living off his officer army salary, and it's nothing glorious. It's, maybe $55,000-$60,000 a year. And then they give you a little housing allowance. So we had really humble beginnings. I was able to buy another vehicle and I just hustled through. And it got to the point where there was, I think it was midsummer when I came home, and it was one of those long showing days. My daughter was like almost 8-9 months, and I was trying to like pick her up and hold her, and she didn't want to be held by me. She went to my mom, who was watching her all these days. And it was like this aha moment, because if you're a mom in real estate and you're listening to this, or even if you're a dad in real estate, there's going to be these aha moments where you're like, holy shit, am I losing my family? Am I losing my kid? And then when I started talking to Brian, I was like, Brian, I need help. And, Brian is a straight military guy. He's like, no, you just need to get more organized. I was like, I don't think my personality can get even more organized. I am who I am. I know how I operate. And my zone of genius is not being very organized. I operate in chaos. And I was telling him, I was like, I need to start a team. And By end of that year, I pulled a trigger. There was somebody on my radar. And you know what? I wish Remax would have supported me more on how to craft a team or who to hire first. Maybe an admin, maybe a full-time TC in-house. No, I actually had a part-time TC that I randomly found because I was just syncing in files. And she was not even in Colorado. She was like working out of state.
Yep.
But I was eyeing this one lady. She was a title assistant, a newly promoted title person, title closer at one of the title companies. And I really liked her work ethic. So I took her out to a very nice dinner and I told her, I was like, how much are you making a year? She's like, well, I was making 35. Now I'm going to be making 42. And I said, well, what if next year I'll double what you make? Will you come work with me? I'm starting a brand new team. I don't know what I'm doing, but I have a vision and I have a passion. And she's like, she did. And Debbie Volk was her name, and she became my right hand in the beginning and my listing manager 5 years. She was with me for 5 years, and she was handling our entire listing department. Because
Right.
Darren, actually, here's another secret. I'm a buyer's agent at heart.
Mm.
I will work with sellers, and I know the sellers is where the money is at, but I love working with buyers, and that's why once again identified what I love and don't love about industry, and she was handling all my sellers for me. She was very nurturing, blue collar work mentality, and we had a really good run. And then after Debbie was running, it was 2017. We hired two younger buyers agents gals, and they were handling a lot of my buyers.
Oh,
And
wow.
for quite some time, it was just four of us for a few years running and gunning. And then I'll tell you when the big growth happened. The big growth happened in 2019, no, 2021, 20 to 21. And, when we survived
So
COVID
you
and
don't see 31 to 119 as big growth?
yes, yes, yes. But I was talking about like the team and body
Oh, I
count.
gotcha. Gotcha. So it was the end of the 119 year that
When,
you then found your first team member. Is that fair to say?
yep, yep.
Amazing.
To the 119 transactions out of that year, I hired somebody. And I
Amazing.
wish I hired differently looking back now. I wish I had a very good ops team on like in-house that would take care of me. Because if I would have proper staff, I feel like I could have, done more. Because for somebody who's listening to right now and they're like, who should I hire first? Every time
Yeah.
a conversation with somebody's like, I want to start a team. I was like, tell me why. What are your reasons? Is it an ego thing? Are you thinking? Do you need help? Do you need to get more organized? And then after lots of these conversations, I'm sure Darren, you have these conversations too. You're like, okay, you don't need a team. You just need maybe part-time assistant, maybe VA in the Philippines who's going to do your marketing. Because guys, team is sexy, but it's not. It's also a lot of headaches. Okay, there's a lot of back end things that Darren will tell you, I'll tell you, that we will deal with.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, building the machine that we have now was not for the faint of heart. I didn't know what I got into. And I've told this on stages, I wouldn't do it again, despite how much I love what we do today. And I'm so proud of what Redline is. Going through that journey, I don't think I would have built it again, right? There's a lot of other ways in this business that might have played more to strengths, and I had to grow and learn and become a different person than I ever thought I was going to have to be. Um, but those like you, those were early team days in this industry back in 2014, 15, 16, 17. Like team was just starting to be a trended topic. The Tom Ferries of the world and that was starting to get coached, and we were all figuring out for the first time, I think. So who would be so if you're an agent that's overwhelmed in business, like 119 deals is by far overwhelmed in business, who would you suggest would have been your best first hire? And was it the TC? And is that who you would suggest with somebody before they go to like a showing assistant or a buyer's agent? Where do you point people?
Yeah, transaction coordinator first and foremost, and somebody who is good, because you'll be surprised how many bad transaction coordinators are out there. It took me almost one time, like 5 attempts to hire a good transaction coordinator who actually loves what they do and have attention to detail. That would be my first bet. But also cross-train your transaction coordinator to be an admin for you, especially if it's in-house person or maybe you're one
Right.
of her clients, and have her help you with some data entry, some CRM management. Because if they are zoned and if their mind is set for transaction management, there's a big chance they're going to be great at helping you organize your files, also prep listing packets, entry listings in MLS, like all the things that we shouldn't be doing, yet we're still doing the, top producing agents, just try
Yeah.
to outsource that to somebody who's great. That will be my first recommendation, because, a person like this, they're going to make your life so much more easier. And probably the second one, before you bring in on your first showing assistant or somebody licensed, because licensed agent, it's going to be a lot of responsibilities, because number one, they're probably going to expect that 50-50% split, unless you're going to bring them as a partner on a salary, but that's another commitment on your part. Because a lot of agents, they kind of hear, oh, 50-50 split if I'm on a team, even though it's not the truth. Not all the teams run like that. But I would bring your personal assistant / right hand. And for me, I have had this position filled for last 5 years. I had 2 people in those shoes, and it's a bit of a list. And it's a list
Yeah.
that works for me. And one of the things that my gal does, who's my office manager, she's my right hand, she's my personal assistant, she's also our client care coordinator and events manager. It's because she's very, very close to me. I'm not saying she's reading my mind, but most of the time she understands how I operate and what Lana wants. Because Darren, one of the things that I know the traits about my personality, I operate through leverage. And if I don't have a right people around me to leverage my ideas
Yeah.
and things like that, I'm probably not going to go too far. And also the big thing on my gals list is to help me with daycare. Not with daycare. Sometimes I'm not saying she's like washing my kids, but if I'm in a meeting, she will gonna go pick up my kids or, watch them for a little bit. It was very, very important to me. And my first gal was helping with that. And my second gal kind of helps with that too.
Fair enough. Yeah. And that top agent like yourself, the different traits and the different hats you wear, having somebody super close to you that can absorb and execute these little moments. And they kind of have to be a bit of a jack of all trades too, because they're wearing mini versions of your hats and they're executing on it. And that takes it, like you said, that takes a little bit to find somebody that can really play in that. It's like your sandbox, but a bit smaller, because you're not having to create every idea, but they execute on them. You're not having to book every this, but you have to be inside the trenches. It is a tricky fit. And I love how you said it is like a personal assistant as well as like transaction related stuff. Because the people that I found that bring them into that EA world, the executive assistant, personal assistant, do really well, right? When they don't just keep them just aside and it's transaction only, because you need somebody that can claw right into your inbox. Somebody can go right into your calendar. Is that fair?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And most importantly, like the personalities need to match too, because I already know if I cannot energetically align myself with somebody on my team, probably we're not going to go far. And that brings up my next point. In 2021, we had the team that was bigger it ever was. It was also during the time when we left KW, when we moved over to Real. We had 15 or 16 agents, including Brian and I. We had six support staff. And it looked so glamorous on the photos. Yeah, I have this great team. I'm a mega team. Just coming from KW, you have to kind of be a mega team status to be recognized and noticed. But oh my God, I'll tell you, it was kind of like a mess behind the scenes. We had to hire a team manager because I was not going to manage the team. That's not my best, highest use. And we had agents who were like top dogs who were producing, and had the agents who were part-timers and they were trying. And I'm grateful for the shifted market, the shifted year, because it like everything cleaned itself out. And now we have 8 agents on a team. We have 8 agents, and they're all full-timers, including Brian and I. Brian and I role are, we're rainmakers. We're bringing business to the team,
Yeah.
and everybody are kind of in their own space. We have no drama. Everybody operates on a high level, and I don't have any headaches. My phone rings only when there's an emergency, and before they call me, they kind of figure out on their own, and it's been good. And I am, of course, we have conversations. So like, should we go back and start growing again? But I was like, but what? Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe this is a good medium.
So what was that year, the shift where you kind of retweaked it? What year was that?
So like end of 2022 going into 2023.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So not too long ago. So like right around, like you said, when you joined Real, right? Because you've been here with how many years now?
2 years going strong, baby.
I'm yeah, that it goes fast too, right? Can we talk about Real for a second?
Let's
We
talk
should,
about it
right?
real. Let's go. Let's get real.
So you did the Remax thing for a while. You whipped over to KW, presumably because it was more of a fit for teams than where you wanted to go. Is that right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
I loved Remax. Remax was really good to me.
Yep.
Balloon got me into many sellers and buyers doors. But then I started scaling a team. And unfortunately, let's just be honest, Remax did not have a proper team support or how, like, I would go into my managing broker's office and they're like, you got this, Lana, you can figure this out. I'm like, Joe, I'm really struggling. I think I don't know what to do. And
Gotcha.
KW, they're like, huh? Lana Rodriguez Group is looking, and they were known as #1 training company in the world, and they have all these schemes of how to structure your team. So it was good for 1 year. 1 year, I was very happy there.
Fair enough. Gotcha. And then you came to Real. I can say us because I was there, I guess, 1 year before you. I'm just about to hit my 3 year. So, like, you know, as Sharon says, we're in this like proof over promise world. We're truly 3 years in with this kind of like proof around the model. What ultimately brought you to Real after things were working well? And can you share a few things and then maybe where it's panned out? And again, you and I know, and we've grown our networks here. We've got a great follow a crew within it. Still a lot of people that are outside of our worlds that look upon it and see the growth, but still are hesitating. You've seen three different models, right? All good ones, right? But here you are today. I mean, give me a little bit about your 2 year journey and how it's kind of impacted you as a team leader, but also let's go deeper to say like even your individual agents, because it's, you know, when I know when I made this decision, it wasn't about me. Um, Drivers will win in any model, right? Goers will crush it at KW, but to me, I looked at it, okay, I'm going to crush either model I'm at, stay indie or go this way. But I looked through the lens of my agents and I was like, I couldn't hide from it anymore. I was like, they're all better off leaving me. Every single one of them, if they could just go and take advantage of this. So tell me your story on this.
Yeah, so fun fact, the first time I heard about Real, like literally somebody called me, and no, I'm not unfortunately part of his downline, but he called me, he's like, hey, I'm making a move to Real, you should consider it. And we were like literally first year at KW, and I said, no, thank you, I've never heard of it and not interested at the moment. Everything is great at KW, but thank you. And that person never followed up or never followed up consistently.
Yep.
And you know that effect when you see one pregnant lady and then you see a bunch of pregnant ladies, or you have a red car and then you start seeing all the red cars. And 1 year later, I started seeing how this person joined Real and this person joined Real. So Real, as you know, we are the Real. We do a really good job on protecting the culture and also showing the good. We're showing the good because honestly, there's not much bad and not no ugly at all. And I was like, okay, I started like all these real people who were in my network started joining the company and I was watching them. And I was very curious, but I was already looking and I did not know what I was looking. I knew it was time for me to part ways from KW. And I'm very grateful for KW. I think Gary Keller is an amazing leader. But the way they operate their offices and the entire structure of KW is very political. It's very political. And if you want to do something, you have to get it approved. If you want to have your own mega team office, you have to get it approved. And there is all these, I'm like, this is
A few little
unnecessary.
layers, a few little extra steps that maybe you weren't feeling necessary.
Yeah, and if you want to teach, it needs to be only per Keller Williams modules. I
Awesome.
teach working by referral. That's my superpower. So why can't I teach that? And they would just not go behind that. And I had a chance to speak with Brad McCallum, and Brad and I are all-time pals from Remax. And he's like, "We love it, Lana. We would love to have you." And I was like, "Okay, right." I also heard the same thing from EXP. So what's next? And everybody were talking so kindly about Tamir. And look, I am not a sole decision maker in my business. If you work with your husband or wife, it's a dual decision. And I
Totally.
kind of pitched Brian EXP. He's like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. He didn't even want to hear about it. And he said, well, there's Real Broker, and the Brad is there, and a couple other friends are there. And he's like, okay, so what? It's another, multi-level company. I was like, it's actually not. And you know what attracted me in the beginning? Entry-level opportunity, because in my market in Colorado Springs, there is nobody at Real Broker. And there's already a bunch of EXP agents and other brands. So Brian and I took a leap of faith and we actually flew to Utah, paid our own way. No one bought us tickets or nothing like that. And we were a little fly on the wall in one of the meetings. And Tamir was there. And we had a chance to meet Tamir, who's a CEO of Real. And oh my goodness, he was so kind. And he actually knew exactly where I was from, Riga, Latvia. And we had this live conversation. And we both left that meeting. I was like, that's it. we want to be behind his leadership.
Yeah.
And we went back to Colorado Springs. And at this particular time, I didn't want to make this decision only mine. So I actually called a town hall meeting with my team and I gave them a very nice presentation in a beautiful setting. And I was like, we need to take a vote right now. And actually out of 16 agents, all 15 of us, yes, let's go. And one of the gals said, I'm not coming. This is too complicated. And I was like, I think it's time to part ways. And that's what I recommend every time you are like moving or doing a big decision, include your team. It's going to bond you guys so much more. And then August 1st, 2022, we made a move. And Darren, growing a new brand in a city, I cannot say it was very rewarding, but it was not easy.
Yeah.
And like this year was the year of big breakthroughs when we actually were able to collaborate and partner up with some big teams in a city, but only because I've been consistent in my route. I've been a good pioneer, real broker, and they've been watching. Because when you make a move, and if you have a little bit of influence in the industry, everybody are watching you. Now, is it a good watching or bad watching? Are they jealous or are they admiring you? Maybe a little bit of both. But this year, there were some things happening in the local market with a couple of the brokers and companies. And my phone rang and they're like, hey, Lana, I think we're ready to deep dive into real. Tell us more. And that's how the growth happened. Right now in Colorado market, we have about 70 agents, plus minus an entire state of Colorado, about 450.
Right. There you go. So, I mean, it's been a good ride. Things like our share purchase plan, things like compensation for just production, all the things that you guys were, we would miss out on because we were producers like you. Like I ran a large crew. We were teaching volume. It's been that's the income. But now we just have these layers. Do you get screenshots from your agents about just like where their Morgan Stanley accounts are and things be like, oh my goodness, Lana, you told me and I kind of trusted you and now is like the proof is there. I get this kind of stuff all the time and people's confidence in this business that doesn't hold a lot of confidence for agents long term, you know what I mean? They have it now. And that's the biggest reward for me. I have it. I was going to create it just like you were. You were paying off your debts. You were way ahead of the game, selling 119 homes. But now when you look around the average body of agents, where everybody's kind of financial baseline has become, I think is probably the biggest reward I feel. Does that resonate with you a bit?
It does resonate, but I'll tell you what I hear the most from my agents is actually the sense of community and the culture. And as you and I are growth ambassadors and culture ambassadors, I mean, clearly the growth and the culture resonates from us, the people. And I've been working really hard to, even welcome the agents who are not part of Real Broker to everything we host. It's kind of like
Yeah.
broker agnostic events, what we host, where everybody are welcome, because number one, industry needs more kindness and the culture overall needs to be better. It is what it is. And my agents, they rave about Real leadership. They love Sharon. They love Tamir.
Sure.
They love access to Real Academy. And yes, of course, when the stock goes up, we're like, celebrate, yay. But ultimately, I feel like the bigger picture really works for them. And like the events, the trainings, I cannot even explain. And another example, for example, not everybody is going to attract. The average agent who joins Real organization, they simply want to be part of, the great ecosystem, the technology, what we're building. But the people who do attract, they kind of attract somebody not because of rev share. They attract because they want to be collaborating with this person. And the best example is actually my lead agent, Amy. She was my lead agent since we joined Real 2 years ago. And now actually she just recently became second managing broker for the state.
Amazing.
So yeah, how lucky am I having a managing broker on my team? Hello.
Totally. So you
Yeah.
mentioned something there. So I mean, you host a couple, you do your client events. So you're used to giving back and this network effect and loving on your sphere and the whole Brian Buffini referral type of world. But you put on events in the agent world too. And I know you're a big part of the women's in real estate in your market. Tell me about that. And I think you put on another one too. Do you do a secondary event as well where you're bringing people together? Can you talk about that? Because we're seeing a lot more of this collaboration among industry, which I mean, you're a major part of.
Yeah, so the minute Brian and I moved to Real Broker, I pulled the trigger on something I really wanted to do for years, even since I left Remax. And I've been trying to do this actually with KW. I was like, why can't we all come together, throw a big event? And they're like, well, you need to get it approved and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Don't do this together. I'm like, that's a bunch of bullshit, excuse my language. So we pulled a trigger and we threw a $40,000 event at the beautiful country club called Elevate. You know, we had the breads and the teams come through and speak, and it was a great crowd. And people are like, you know, the haters always going to say, oh, she's doing it for recruiting. No, I'm actually doing this to provide opportunities for agents who maybe cannot afford travel to, you know, Town Ferry conference, or who cannot afford to stay in a 3-night hotel stay at a Buffini event. This is all in their backyard. And we had a good solid crowd for 150 attendees. And now we are getting ready to host our 3rd annual here in Colorado Springs. So we're doing this. And anyone who's like in event business, oh, she's making money on this. Actually not. There is no money in events. We all
No.
do it to, you know, the build the brand and show the culture. Like most of the time I'm paying half of the event out of my pocket. And it's anywhere from like $10,000 to $20,000, maybe $25,000. I get a little bit of sponsor monies and it's a little bit of ticket sales. But I know in my city, I cannot charge like $300, $400 for the ticket. And the Colorado Springs is not that market. So our tickets are like starting 85 to like $95. Okay, maybe $100 right now, just barely covering the cost. So we do this. And, you know, my first year with Real, I traveled a lot. I love speaking on stage, and I speak about what I know best is how to work by referral. And I actually toured a lot. You know, you and I shared a stage in Canada. And I love it. If you don't have to twist my arm, I go travel every week. But my family did not like that. My kids are the age of 8 and 5. And every time I leave, the dynamics changes. And because they're taken care of by my mom and by Brian and my little guy, he kind of, you know, he's slightly on the spectrum, and like he's my son. Like I need to be there to take care of him. So in the last year, I paused a little bit. I'm doing a little bit of less traveling, and I'm being more strategic with my speaking engagements. But me and my local partner gals, I was like, why don't we just start doing some things locally? So we started doing these ladies masterminds. I went to Denver and I did a mastermind with our managing broker. So we try to do these local events. And I know for the fact, and Darren, I'm sure you know this yourself because you built such a big, amazing organization at Redline. If you build locally, it will expand eventually globally. It will, you know. So that's my motto for this year and also going into the next year.
Totally. Now that you've got these repeat events, and we found this too with our Thrive Not Survive events, is that once you break down the walls that the people think that it's a recruitment event and it's just a give back to the industry, and you've got different reasons than I have for putting them on, but it's a pure give. When people finally experience that, then they open up and then they bring their friends, and it's not about if you're at which brokerage or which. It just becomes about getting us together, because as you know, our industry needs more of that. So I love that you're a champion for that, and you and I share that within the Reels world too. I wanted to ask you, so you have this referral by only background. You've got your veterans affiliation as well. The agents that have joined your team, did they really embrace the whole referral by only, and they built their businesses very similar to you? Or are they out building kind of different mini businesses? Or have they really embraced that philosophy and you're seeing them pull off, you know, successes in that way? Yeah, I just would love to know that dynamic.
You know, yes and no. As far as agents on my team, they know the systems we're working with. It's very, very clear. And I do majority of the lead gen and prospecting myself. I can probably be a little bit more strict on doing like joint prospecting, but my main expectation for the agents on my team is for them, when I give them an opportunity or introduce them to a client, they need to go run and gun and 100%, you know?
Yeah.
And then that's how it's set up on a team. As far as people in my network, they know that topic is very near and dear to my heart. I also teach at Real Academy once a month. It's my way to giving back to the company, and it's a referral-based mastermind. So also, I'm a true believer that everyone needs to discover their zone of genius and their superpower. All right. If Lana all of a sudden goes on stage and start talking about SOPs or, you know, yeah, no, I'm still going to be talking about something what I'm very passionate about and what I know best. Okay. Yeah, I have like this little bitty keynote about social media, but only just sharing some things that work for me and that, you know, that I've seen work for others. But I try to embrace that culture only because that culture of working by referral has been really great to me. It built my entire business. And when I'm counseling the new agents or agents who are struggling, the biggest objection, like, I don't have a database, or I don't know anyone, blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, you're just not organized enough. And then I sit down with them and I'll help them just how to, get a little bit more organized, because everyone can be working by referral. And it comes to your sphere, your past clients. If you don't have clients, you definitely have a sphere, if you're a good human being, or even agent to agent referrals.
It's limitless, right? It's unlimited, and it's again, I mean, so yeah, we all have our way to build the business. There's so many ways to do it. And I think when I unpack, so I've got this 100 agent team, right? It's a big squad. So I have a pretty good kind of like data set to explore. And when I look into people, almost 80% of them would fall with the majority of their business in the sphere world, like mastering their sphere, mastering the referrals. So it's like what you teach and preach and have benefited from. All of us honestly could lean in harder and build from, because it is already the core skill for most of us. It's just we're not ringing it out as well as you could, and you're not going a little deeper and maybe carrying a little more, like in your case, because you're that type that builds these reports. A very small percentage are YouTube based agents or online lead generation based agents or a farm community based agents. Almost all of them should resonate kind of with your world. Where does somebody go if they want to explore getting better with it? Do you still find Buffini is one of the best places to go when it is that line of thinking? Have you found great books you can refer to or podcasts you listen to? Because I know, strip it all away, that's where people go. That's where people need to spend more energy, because most of it is, a lot of it is just free, right?
Yeah. So definitely if somebody is looking for like a coaching or support opportunity, Buffini coaching is it. Interesting fact is that I was part of Buffini from 2017 to 2019. I had a good run. And then I started coaching with somebody else because I was scaling a team. My
Yep.
priorities shifted, but I'm back into Buffini coaching. And not only because, like, do I know all the systems? I sure do. But it's good to be in that environment with like-minded agents. So that's why I recommend, if you are looking, to sharpen your axe or whatever, look into Buffini Coaching. Absolutely great company. Very simple, much different than Tom Ferry or, Glover U or whatever else is out there. Or definitely tune in into my monthly, monthly not podcast, my monthly classes at Real Academy. Or if you feel comfortable DMing me, it doesn't matter if you're with Real, if you're with our company, and I can maybe point you, and I can even share my presentation with you, and it may be helpful with some ideas. And of course, Darren, I'm sure you know how to work by referral, so reach out to Darren for that. And last but not least, Brian Buffini has a podcast. It's absolutely free. It's called The Good Life, and it's a lot of good nuggets, a lot of
Oh,
simple, very, very good nuggets.
I agree. Social media for you, is it to just, I know you're great with Facebook, you mentioned it, right? This is where your people are, your sphere are, these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of past clients, and that's how you connect. Is it mostly a way to just connect with the people that you know and know you? Or have you used it to just scale and grow outside of that network as much? Or is it really mostly just to serve the people in your world already?
Yeah, so Facebook is strictly for me to remain omnipresent and connected to my community. We tend to friend everyone who we have worked in the past, or if it's a great genuine connection. I told my gals on my team and myself and Brian, friend them immediately. And that's how I keep in touch. Because remember, when people post on Facebook, it's much different strategy when people post on Instagram. Instagram is typically a much more polished feed. It's a sexy pictures of them in suits or listing videos. Where on Facebook, people, like, if they're fighting COVID, God forbid, or they're sick or their dog died, it's probably going to go on their Facebook wall, because Facebook removes these barriers, and the audience on your Facebook is probably people you know, like, and trust. Well, on Instagram, still a bunch of strangers. Now,
Yeah.
I kind of missed the momentum with Instagram. I don't know why I did not got on it early. So my Instagram account is okay. But every time, I'll tell you, every time I post a reel, because if you want to start attracting, audience of different followers, reels are going to do it to you, because the reel is the only piece of content that actually gets exposed to the people outside of your circle. So every time I post a good reel or funny reel, or a little bit of a viral reel, I get a lot of followers that way. So that's great. I was active on TikTok. I actually have 50,000 followers on TikTok, all organic.
Holy
And
smokes.
yeah, but I stopped posting that. And I'll tell you what, On TikTok, you market yourself 90% of the time to the people who might never refer you. When the viral video goes out on TikTok, you will like whoever like that viral video syndicates to, that's who's going to follow you. And it's people all around the country. And, I started posting for quite some time, a little bit of weight loss, surgery content, all this. And it was a hot content, it was hot topics. And then I got all these followers, like thousands of followers who are DMing me, but it's not about real estate, it's about beauty tips or weight loss tips or, surgery recovery tips. And I was like, whoa, 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 I need to step away from it because it was taking too much of my time. But right now, I feel like Facebook connecting with your like-minded
Your
people.
people, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and Instagram, just for some strategies. I mean, there is great Instagram content creators like Brad and Paige, and we all know them. But for them, they've been at it for a long time, and they do it on a very high level. I don't do it on a high level. I just do it on like a mid-level.
Sure. But you found your zone, right? And it works for you. And that I think that's important to note. So I know we're short on time. Best place to follow your journey, is it Facebook? And is it just finding you is it Lana Rodriguez? Or, what's the best way to stay in touch?
Yeah, actually, Facebook or Instagram. At Facebook, I'm constantly at 5,000 friends, and I have to remove somebody to add somebody. But on Instagram, there's no limit, and I try to cross post my content, and I check daily both. So if you're seeing this podcast, number one, of course, follow Darren and connect with him because he's an amazing leader and a great friend and mentor. And I would love to help you guys out in any way, shape, or form. If it comes to working by referral or scaling a entry-level size team, I'm your gal, and yeah, I would love to hear from you guys.
If you've got room in her friend group, if she has it, when you click try, you'll see how authentic and how real you are constantly. And just the stuff that you post is it's refreshing. It's easy to consume, and you can see why the people in your world would want to stay connected because again, they get the real Lana all the time, which I love. So you and I are going to get to catch each other in October down in Vegas. Do you have an event before then, or is that it? Is it?
Yeah, I'm hosting our Elevate September
Okay.
18th Colorado Springs conference, getting that out of the way, and then I'm full blown focusing, working hard and being kind because we have in Colorado we have good 2 months before it starts snowing and people go
Yeah.
into snow mode. So we're gonna be
Totally.
working hard before and being kind till Rise conference, and then you're gonna see me there, my friend.
There you go. Well, it's been a freaking blast. I wish we could chat longer. Thanks for being with me. We already talked about where to find you. I'll get it all in the show notes. I'll see you in Vegas at Rise. This has been another Re-Education Experience podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Lana, for being with me. And we will catch you again next time.
Thank you, guys.